Staying humble is key. No matter what, I think knowing that you're not the knower of all the things,
Mm,
um, I think is very important. And you can always learn from others. People that report to me, I'm constantly like, oh, thank you. You just taught me that. I didn't know. And
mm,
just being able to name that, I think, is very important. So I think I always try to come at most situations with a learner's mindset. Like I'm here to learn something new, regardless
mhm.
of the position that I'm in. So I think that that is a good way to help safeguard. And I do think that it could very easily be a downfall for many people if you don't look at that.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Business of Learning podcast. My guest here today is Jenna Kokoski, who is the VP of Clinical Strategy at Jade Health. Jenna, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I am excited to have this conversation. It's a little bit of a different business than most of the businesses that I've been speaking with. So tell everyone a little bit more about Jade Health, who you guys are, who you help, and what you're all about.
Yeah, so Jade Health is originally called Behavioral Health Center of Excellence, BHCOE. It's an accreditation for ABA organizations that do applied behavior analysis specifically. And we're the first accreditation for the industry and been around for 10 years. We also have other service lines, which is why now we have Jade as like the umbrella, and then the BHCOE accreditation. We also do a national benchmarking data registry. And then we do credentialing and contracting for ABA field specifically, and then business consulting as well.
Mhm. Awesome. And I would love for you to also tell a little bit more of your background because before we started this whole thing, you gave me a bit of a rundown and I found it so interesting. So I'd love it if you were to share that
Yeah.
as well.
Sure. So I'm a clinician by trade. I'm a BCBA, that's Board Certified Behavior Analyst. And so I work with people with special needs and work on behaviors. And I've been one of those for 15 years now. I started my own business back in the beginning of 2013. And then in 2019, I sold that. We grew really fast. It was, I went from clinician to business owner very quickly.
Yeah.
And so kind of dropped the clinical side of things more and really dove into the business side,
Hmm.
which I really, really love. And so then from there, I stayed on with my organization that acquired us, and I grew with them and learned a lot under some great people in
Hmm.
business. And then, so then I went out on my own and did my own business consulting specifically for ABA organizations.
Hmm.
And then that's how I came all the way back to Jade now.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I think there's so many things that I'm gonna want to ask you about that.
Yeah.
But final clarification here for someone who might not know what an ABA organization is, please a little bit of maybe a 30-second explanation there.
Yeah. So ABA stands for Applied Behavior Analysis, which is the science of behavior. And primarily it is used for therapy for people with special needs,
Hmm.
specifically in the autism community. But ABA therapy can be used for many general different things. But for the most part, through funders and for insurance companies
Hmm.
and all of that, the funding comes through that, and most of the time with a diagnosis.
Hmm. Awesome. I wanted to start, or not start, but I guess keep us going here. Specifically talking about how this is actually a growing industry. It's more and more becoming a need for a lot of specifically youth, I guess, but not just youth who are obviously going through a lot of things and need that support. So I would love for you to comment on how Jade is helping that process and how they are actually helping the kids who are special need, who do have autism and who just need a helping hand, and which is where Jade comes in to support that. So I'd love for you to talk about that in this growing industry that we're in.
Yeah, so I think in over the past few years, the number of diagnosis of people with autism has skyrocketed. Right now, in the United States, it is 1 in 36
Wow.
kids are diagnosed with autism. So the numbers are going up. So the need for services are continuing, and people are aging. So the services, this is not one of those things where you get these services and you're suddenly cured and you don't have something. No, we just are teaching you how to adapt and live your
Hmm.
life in a different way. Um, and so I think one of the main things that we do with through Jade Health is We do the accreditation. So we come into
Hmm.
an organization, they will say we want to have an accreditation for ABA services. And
Hmm.
so we will look at everything clinically that's being done. So their treatment planning, as well as observe sessions that are
Hmm.
happening as well, to make sure that it's happening and across locations as well. And then making sure that on the back end, even as an employee, the processes are in place, the training for that staff is in place and being done correctly. All the standards of quality ABA care are being met. And
Hmm.
so really we're helping not only the kiddos but also the families as they're trying to find, because there's such a big need. There are so many businesses popping up all the time, ABA businesses.
Hmm.
And so being able to say, like, I'm going to look for just ones that are accredited because I know that they've been established, they've been
Hmm.
vetted. Everything that the product that they're providing is good clinically and sound.
Hmm.
And so really helping families, but then we're also finding that it helps, like on the employee side, as far as retention or people coming and wanting to work
Hmm.
for you because they know, okay, this organization, their training and onboarding is done good. I'm not going to feel left alone.
Hmm.
I know that I have the support I need. So really helping in both of those ways.
That's really, really interesting. And I'm wondering, how do these organizations usually find out about you guys? Is it you usually reach out to them? Is it conferences? Is it mostly word of mouth? How does that relationship even start?
Yeah. So really a lot of it is, I would say, word of mouth. Definitely
Hmm.
conferences. We publish white papers. We're also in the process of updating like compensation benchmarking for our field, because there's not a lot of that information out. Really being like a knowledge base for businesses in general. But
Hmm.
then there are some states in the United States that are starting to require accreditation for
Hmm.
ABA services. So that's just getting started. So that's how a lot of people then are Googling, what the heck? How do I
Yeah.
find accreditation? And there's
Hmm.
not a lot of us around. So I would say a lot is organic, word of mouth, and a lot of outreach on our end.
Hmm. Interesting. And is there a lot of competition? You mentioned that there's not a lot of you around. Would you even know how many accredited?
There's only one other
Oh wow.
accreditation, and they've only been around for 1 year. So,
Hmm.
yep,
Interesting. Yeah. It shows the, I guess, the advantage there is that you guys have already proven concept, have been doing it for a long time. And
yep.
how old is Jade now for
10
exactly?
years. This year is
10
10
years.
years. Yep.
And how has it been? How has the process of helping Jade grow been different than maybe some of the journeys that you've had beforehand?
I mean, doing B2B is completely different than, in the past, it was more um, reaching out directly to parents.
Hmm.
And I would say the growth, when you're in an ABA organization, the growth mindset is really, you don't have to worry too much about, are there going to be enough clients that we could have? That's not an issue at all. But it's really the staffing that's the main issue.
Hmm.
There's not a lot of behavior analysts in the United States or around the world in general. And so we're way behind on the ratio of how many analysts we need versus how many people are diagnosed. So it's really, how can we, if you want to grow, how am I going to get the clinicians in the door? How am I going to get them to stay? Um,
Hmm.
and for an amount that is sustainable for the organization.
And do you mean
There's
that for Jade internally or for the clients that you're helping?
no, for the clients that we've been helping. That's the main
Hmm.
part there. So focusing more on like that client retention, the
Hmm.
staff retention, whereas now it's more, okay, what do business owners need? What do they not have time for? We're constantly getting inundated with information. Our field is so young. The field of ABA is really, really young. And it's a lot of clinicians who are turning into business owners,
Hmm.
and they don't have the training. They don't have everything that they need. They're just doing it because there's a need and they
Hmm.
can fill that need. So really now it's a lot more of what do business owners need to do their job? What do they not have time to do, to figure out for themselves,
Hmm.
that we can help them get the right information in front of them that they need?
Interesting. So would you say it's more so like a lack of awareness from a lot of these clinicians who are in that transition phase from, hey, I'm just a clinician to now turning into an ABA organization? Or is it the ABA organizations themselves that kind of are looking for this thing, they just don't really know where to look, or a situation more similar to that?
Yeah, I think right now it's much more the clinician moving into being an
Mm-hmm.
operator, and I need to know business, and I need to have a strategy, and I need, how much money do I need in the bank for when our payers we don't get paid on time?
Mm.
How do I retain my staff? It's a lot
Mm-hmm.
more of that. In the past, I would say the past 5 years, we have a lot more private equity come into our space, into the
Interesting.
industry. So that naturally brings in people who are much more business minded,
Mm-hmm.
versus just being clinical minded.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think for a while there, it was really rough. It was very much like, your business and we're clinicians, and they can't go together. But
Mm-hmm.
I think we're finally at a point where we're seeing like the melding together of
Hmm.
having both the clinician side of things as well as the business side, and bringing
Mm-hmm.
both together. Because in the past, it was really, if you're a clinician and you start your own business, you're kind of like a unicorn if you're able to keep it going and sustain
Sure.
it, because you don't have training in that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you're learning as you go along.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so
So
now
you're
it's
seeing those intertwine now.
yeah, so now we're seeing them intertwine a lot more, and a lot more people who want to go into the business side that are clinicians,
Mm-hmm.
taking the time to do some courses or
Mm-hmm.
understanding of business before they just go into it. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people kind of jumped into it, and then a lot of businesses had to shut down because of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think that this is not just for clinicians, but I think maybe business owners everywhere who started like, how hard could it be? And then they like, oh, it starts. I'm like, this is how hard it can be.
yeah,
So it's always an interesting dynamic to see everywhere across every single field and
yeah.
across every single industry. And for you guys, is it are most of your customers that those clinicians who are transitioning as you spoke, or is it the organizations who are already I don't want to say set in stone, but are already kind of
Yeah.
established?
I would say it depends on the service line. So we have the quick start, which is for startups
Mm.
specifically, and that is a lot of clinicians who are wanting to start on their own. So
Mm-hmm.
we're able to bring them to the table with, here's all the knowledge you need. Here, let's
Mm.
consult with you to get you through so that you're ready and you can meet standards.
Mm-hmm.
But then through our accreditation through the BHCOE, those are usually a little more established. You have to have seen clients for at least 6 months in order to have
Mm.
that. And you have to have some staff um, on the books officially, and so you have to have a few more things in place before you can become accredited.
Mm.
So in that sense, we're seeing them a little more established.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. It sounds like there's a much higher volume on the clinician side, and I guess the possibility for growth for Jade Health on that side, and the other ones they're there as well, and there obviously is still that need, but it's kind of gets a little bit outweighed by the newcomers, so to speak.
Yeah, I like to look at it as like a roadmap.
Okay.
Because the reason why we started the quick start was because we were doing the accreditation for so many organizations that wanted to get started, and they were not set up. We're like, you're not going to pass accreditation.
Huh.
You can't pass it because you're not ready and you're not set up. And so that's where we thought, okay, that's what needs to happen, is there needs to be something to help people set up.
Hmm.
So they're two separate entities, two
Yeah.
separate lines within our organization. So there's no crossover, but I think of
Hmm.
it as a roadmap. We'll help you get started so that you're on
Yeah.
your way to being able to meet the standards to become accredited.
That makes so much sense, and it's like you said, it's that perfect roadmap because once they are here and they are ready to set up, hey, we have this other thing that you can also take care of.
Yep.
That's really awesome. That's why I really love business, because it's so interesting to find these little things that are happening and how these how leaders like yourself are thinking through all these processes of like, okay, amazing. We have this great thing. How can we make it even better and get more people to actually
Yeah.
get impacted for it? So I really love
Yeah.
that.
And
Yeah.
even now we have a National Autism Data Registry, which
Mm.
really does looks at like the
Mm.
clinical outcomes of the services that are being done. And so now,
Mhm.
even after you're accredited, you could do this, join at any moment and any time.
Sure.
But the natural kind of roadmap then would be next to, let's look at what are your clinical outcomes.
Mhm.
Are the clients you're serving receiving the best kind of care? What's their average outcome?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what does that look like compared to others in your state or in
Mm-hmm.
your region? And we have nothing like that at all in our field, which is crazy because a lot of other healthcare industries have benchmarks. You can at least
Mm-hmm.
tell, like, if we provide this service and this therapy, this is what we're expected to happen from it. And we
Mm-hmm.
just don't have that in our field. So that service line has been up for a year now.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really cool to see starting to get like the true data in there to be able to
Mm-hmm.
show like what should parents be expecting
Mm-hmm.
from receiving ABA services,
Yeah.
as well as for on the business side, being able to say, bring it back to like the payer and say,
Mm-hmm.
hey, look, we are at the higher percentile. We should Our rates should be higher. We think that we should be paid more because we're providing better quality of care.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see the improvement is faster, so you won't have to pay us as long. Just pay us a little more now.
Hmm.
So
That's really, 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 really awesome. It's I always love seeing the thought process of how everything goes down. So thank you for sharing that.
yeah.
You mentioned in the beginning of our conversation learning from a lot of smart people along the way. Is there any piece, maybe one or two pieces of advice or anything that really impacted you in your entire entrepreneurial journey from mentors that always stuck with you, and it's something that you always think about in the way that you look at growing businesses?
Yeah, one would be always take the phone call, always talk to somebody because you never know, and it's always a chance to learn something new.
Hmm.
And even if it's outside your wheelhouse or it's outside of like your industry, whatever, there's a lot still out there and you can
Mm-hmm.
learn from. So I always take the call. You might as well see. Um,
Awesome.
and then the other thing I think is that sticks with me a lot is um, being focused on like what your product is that you're providing,
Hmm.
and not trying to do too many things that ends up you're doing them all badly.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing a
Yeah.
lot, but you're not doing any of them well.
Yeah.
So to keep it tight and really like focus more on what is our bread and butter, like where are we going to
Mm-hmm.
focus, and then we can have little offshoots here and there, but
Yeah.
that one thing has to remain true,
Mm-hmm.
as your like your North Star for your organization.
Yeah. Shy away from the shiny object syndrome. Like
Yes.
it's always going to be there, always, right?
Yeah.
And
You're always there. That doesn't mean you have to do it.
yeah,
It means you
exactly.
have to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you reminded me of I can't remember exactly who said this, but there's always the notion, like if you speak to I guess the average population, it's like, oh, all these billionaires and millionaires, they have so many income streams, which means I have to have many income streams. But it's
Yeah.
like they built everything that they have with one thing, and now once they built it, then they diversified.
That's very true. Yes.
Exactly, right. So then there's I guess there's always this misconception, of yeah, I have to do a lot of things, but no, just focus on one and then you can do whatever you want
Yeah,
later.
I've encountered a lot of different organizations, and helping them get up their feet on the ground and get moving. And they're saying, but it would be great if these kids also had services for speech therapy and OT and physical therapy and all the different things. Like that's great, but you need to like have one thing that can sustain all the others as you work out how to make them
Mhm.
work. So yeah, staying focused on that one pillar in the middle, and then you can branch off.
Yeah, that's hilarious. It's always like it would be great, yeah, it would, but if you do it all, you're not going to be able to do all of them well. So
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
that's really really awesome. I really like those two pieces of advice there. I have a couple final questions here for you.
yeah.
Is there any specific characteristics of the clinicians who are looking to transition that really make them the perfect, or really sets them up for success? Like if they take these actions, it'll make the process for them so much easier.
I think as clinicians, I've I've encountered, and I went through this myself at the
Sure.
beginning as well, of being like a bleeding heart. Like,
Hmm.
sure, you need service. I'll find a way to like make it work. And then I'm losing money on providing those services because
Yeah.
I just felt like it, but I feel bad and
Yeah.
I'm supposed to serve you and that's what I'm supposed to do. Um, so I think having a mindset that if you can't create something that is sustainable, then you're not going to be able to do any of it at all. If
Mm.
you're not if your goal, which most of the time clinicians coming in, my goal is to serve as many clients as I possibly can. Well, if you are doing too many, you're going all over the place, you're not you feel bad for this family, you give them a discount, you feel bad for that one, you give them for
Mhm.
free. This staff member needed a few more hours, you don't have it, but you find a way to give it to them anyway.
Mm.
If you're doing all of those things, you're not going to be sustainable, and then you're not going to
Mhm.
be able to provide services to anybody.
Hmm.
So you do have to be picky about your process and stick to what needs to happen for sustainability. Not that you can't do, have a kind heart
Sure.
and do things for people as needed. But you can't build and sustain a business on that. And it all goes back in our eyes, it all goes back to the clients. And if you can't serve them, then
Hmm.
you're not gonna be able to do any of it at all.
Yeah, I really like that perspective. It's almost like sacrificing the short term pain that you're gonna have to go through of no, I can't give you that for free. No, I can't do that. But in
Yeah,
the long run, then the impact that they're looking for is actually going to be able to achieve because of those
exactly.
pains that they have to, I guess, just settle for.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, when it comes to
And
because
it is,
it's
it's
business,
sad.
right?
It's sad to have to say no to some, but then that
Hmm.
means you might be able to serve 10 more
Yeah.
on the back end. So you have to be able to like take yourself out of that
Hmm.
um, and look at it in a different way, which I think
Hmm.
for clinicians is hard to do.
Yeah, 100%. Two final questions here for you, Jenna. One that I've been asking everybody, so I'll start with that, which is if you had a magic wand and you could just wave this amazing, beautiful magic wand and solve just one thing in the business, maybe a challenge, an obstacle that would help you achieve all the growth goals that you have, what would that one thing be that you'd like to solve?
For like my business
For
specifically
Jade,
where I
yeah,
am now. Um, it's a great question.
that's why I asked it.
I know. I would say be able to bring down the cost of accreditation for
Hmm.
organizations. If I was able to like wave my wand and make that happen so that our costs just are being able to do an accreditation takes manpower, takes all of that.
Hmm.
Um, and for some organizations, they're too small and they're not able to afford
Hmm.
accreditation. So being able to really serve more of those types of companies,
Hmm.
which then serves more clients, which you know
Hmm.
what I mean. So I feel like
Yeah,
it all trickles down.
I guess at the end goal.
Yeah,
Hmm. Awesome.
yeah.
And final question here. It's actually not a question from me. It's a question from our last guest to you, and they had no idea who you were. Ready
Okay,
for the question? This is a bit of a long one.
okay.
Okay, so here's the question. Business success will sometimes drive internal pride. How do you prevent that success from being your downfall? And if you don't prevent it, do you think it will cause failure in the future?
Great question. I think that staying humble is key. No matter what, I think knowing that you're not the knower of all the things,
Mm,
um, I think is very important. And you can always learn from others. People that report to me, I'm constantly like, oh, thank you. You just taught me that. I didn't know. And
mm,
just being able to name that, I think, is very important. So I think I always try to come at most situations with a learner's mindset. Like I'm here to learn something new, regardless
hmm.
of the position that I'm in. So I think that that is a good way to help safeguard. And I do think that it could very easily be a downfall for many people if you don't look at that. Really, as a leader, you're only as good as the team that's with you
Yeah.
and under you. So if you're not pushing the team forward in general, it's going to be hard to accomplish really anything.
Hmm.
And then that's naturally going to become your downfall.
Amazing. Jenna, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you. This has been a great conversation. Where should people go if they want to learn maybe a little bit more about you or Jade Health?
Yeah. I'm on LinkedIn myself, Jenna Kokoski. And then jadehealth.org is our company.
Awesome. Jenna, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.